Good morning, Bande Matram. Welcome to this session of Savitri summarization. Here today we are going to take on the subject, the book 2 Canto 3, The Glory and the Fall of Life. So this is the topic of discussion in this session of Savitri summarization, the glory and the fall of life. Here definitely we are going to discuss on life on two aspects. One is of glory and the second aspect on the fall of life. So this is one of the very interesting topic we'll take while reading. We must know most of the things which are getting in fluctuating nature. So here we are going to have a brief discussion. Of course, brief loop. Already we have planned. It is as a summarization session. Just to summarize what is real, what is being contented in that contents, and what are the things that have been there in the subject, that is the topic of discussion for right now. Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully, passing beyond the subtle physical realms. Before we have seen two chapters, like two cantos, like world stair, that gradation, and second the beautiful enchanted world, that is the fine material, so-called fine material paradise by Sri Aurobindo, that is the kingdom of the subtle matter. So here we are coming to the after the big glory, there will be a giant fall, of course. Passing beyond the subtle physical realms, Ashwapati enters into the domains of life. Here he enters into the domains of life. He travels in the vast spreading before him. Travels in the vast spreading before him. Before him, long spreading is there, and he travels on. Their horizons ever receding. Their horizons ever receding, and this is the great vast horizon he is entering. So there is no fixity anywhere, all is in a flux. There is nothing in fixity. No, everything in all is in a flux. There is no seeking for safety. These are the characteristic of that realm. There is no seeking for safety, but instead there is everywhere a spirit of adventure, careless of fall and pain. Of course, there is a fall is there, unsafety is there, but the thing that is everywhere you can find the spirit of adventure, careless of fall and pain. Life seems to follow a course perceived by some intelligence within. From intelligence within, life perceived by some intelligence within, life seems to follow a course. That adventure is there, without pain and fall, fear of careless of fall and pain. So here we can see now crawling low, now shooting up, but always on move. Sometimes it is crawling low, sometimes it is shooting up, but always on the move. It is the life is moving on. She goes through all moods of grief, of exaltation, and of rapture. Three things, of course, here in the course here. This life faces different types of moods, like she goes through all moods like grief, exaltation, and of rapture, but the ever dissatisfied goes on, that a travel is non-stop, is ceaseless, but actually ever dissatisfied. She remembers and dreams of the lost happiness and the beauty, and vainly strives to attain. Again, during the course, dissatisfied, but actually this process, this journey is ceaseless, it is going on. Of course, she remembers and dreams of her lost happiness and the beauty, and vainly strives to attain them. Something was there being attained by life, like happiness, beauty, but actually she has lost. It is forgotten, and it is actually life is now trying to attain, but not at all possible till now. Her aim is in the one direction, the heaven of bliss, but his steps move towards another. This is the difference of it. Her aim is in one direction. Direction is heaven of bliss, but her steps are moving towards another, the hell. So there is a contradiction right now, expecting heaven, but feet are moving in the paths of the hell. Anyway, we'll try to quote a few glorious lines from Savitri, that is originally Sri Aurobindo has quoted. An uneven broad ascent now leered his feet. Uneven broad ascent leered his feet, answering a greater nature's troubled call. Greater nature is there, but call is troubled. He crossed the limits of the embodied mind and entered wide, obscure, disputed fields. Entered wide, obscure, disputed fields where all was doubt and change and nothing sure. So this is the great world of which Sri Aurobindo quotes, a world of search and toil without repose. This is the real Sri Aurobindo quotes of. Always uncertain of the ground he trod, always drawn onto an inconstant goal. That is the character, inconstant goal and uncertain of the ground. He traveled through a land peopled by doubts. This is the great world. Of course, it is a great adventure, but actually packed with inconscient and doubts. So, will journey, nothing he found to satisfy his heart. That is the main problem with him. Nothing he found that to satisfy his heart. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes, she accepts a disaster as a common risk. That is very risky. Careless of suffering, heedless of sin and fall, she wrestles with danger and discovery. That is the greatness of that atmosphere, that realm, in the unexplored expanse of the soul. So again, to be seemed only a vain long experiment. That is the characteristic to which he travels on. And again, Sri Aurobindo quotes, a scene was planned for all of our numberless moods where each could be the law and way of life. So there is confusion, there is certain dissatisfaction, there is clumsy, there is up and down with it. Actually, he is traveling and he is seeing the things in beauty and happiness are her native right. Her moods are faces of the infinity, Sri Aurobindo quotes. Her moods are faces of the infinity, beauty and happiness are her native right, and endless bliss is her eternal home. This is a great realm, of course. It is actually he is traveling through, but thing is that actually packed with up and down. Sri Aurobindo has quoted, or initially Sri Aurobindo has quoted broad, uneven broad ascent, like this it has been written there. So against during the course, this now revealed its antique face of joy, very primitive antique face of joy, a sudden disclosure to the heart of grief, tempting it to endure and long and hope. That is, there is no other go, because already we know that to some extent we have read the characteristic of the earth. So a little bit we'll try to move forward and know what really the other characteristics are awaiting and how you will be know to face when really we are traveling through. Of course, we are reading and Sri Aurobindo is moving. What are the other factors and other scenario it is coming to the vision? That is a great thing. As he advances, Ashwapati perceives the realm of griefless life. Very interesting. Griefless life looming above the worlds of struggle and the suffering below. Two worlds actually he can perceive, he can behold. One is actually the griefless life looming above, and above the worlds of struggle and suffering. Here, the world of struggle and suffering. Above it, we can find he could perceive the griefless life looming there. Then they appear bright with the splendor of the gods, unlike any human mind has conceived. That upper realm, what he is finding, the splendor of the gods, it is packed with the splendor of the gods, which the mind has never conceived. Mind, it has not gone up to that level. Yet they are not outside the reach of man. Man, if tries, he can reach, but it is within his reachability. For deep in the being of the states of beatitude, there are this immortal nature. Some immortal nature is there. He can reach. It is within his reachability, and the man does get glimpses of them in a rare moment of the inner experience. Unless some people who are having the inner experience, that sadhaka, this type of sadhana man who achieves, actually he is able to know, he to glimpse that it is achievable. He can, but others can't know. Again, Ashwapati is attracted by the live planes at the summits. At the summits, he could perceive, and he is attracted to the live planes, which melt into the vast of the self, where the finity blends with the infinity, and where the time fades into the eternal. So, this is the great thing Sri Aurobindo quotes. While traveling, he is attracted to the live planes at the summits, which melt into the vast of the self. These live planes of the summits, it is melting into the vast of the self, where the finity blends with the infinity. Number one, finity blends with the infinity, and the time fades into eternal. So this is the scenario Sri Aurobindo glimpse in his own vision. So again, we'll read something out. Out of the eternal and the one, out of the eternal and one, the world force brings out many into space and time. Bring out the many into space and time. Out of eternal and one, the world force brings out the many into space and time. The cosmic act proceeds out. The cosmic act proceeds out of it, and is upheld by the eternal quiet. The one supports the many. Here there is the link between the one and the many. The one supports the many, and the creative force is impelled and guided by the spirit as intelligence within. So the one and one is impelled by the one supports the many, and the creative force is impelled and guided by the spirit within. So that is, the creative force is impelled and guided by the spirit as intelligence within, as spirit by the spirit as intelligence within. All creatures is a play of being and his force. Entire creature, already we have seen one and many, then all the creatures is the play of being and his force of God and nature. Entire thing, whatever you find, these are actually all creatures are is a play of being and his force of God and nature. In this process there are ups and downs. There is ups and downs, and on the plane of life, Ashwapati beholds both higher worlds, where the life holds sway in her glory, and the nether worlds, where life suffers in diminution and deformation. So the two scenario, one is actually one in the upper, difference between the on the upper, in the higher worlds, life holds the sway of all glory and glory. Entire it is packed with glory, while in the upper sphere, while it is in the nether worlds, life suffers fall, diminution, and deformation. That is the difference. Anyway, we have seen this is the world, great world, vast world, packed with ups and downs. Anyway, so this is the scenario till now we have faced in beautiful lines. Two comparisons are there. Upper, we can find the splendor of gods. Here in the human mind, you can see everything is on the top. There is beatitude, there is immortal in nature, but here where we think that finite blends, it is very much limited. So life suffers from fall, diminution, and deformation. So right now we will go and read a couple of lines from Sri Aurobindo's original writings here, how he has quoted about this world while adventuring into the higher, entering and into the top. So here in the course here, our human ignorance moves towards truth, that nescience may become omniscient. Our human ignorance, already we have seen, our human moves towards the truth, that nescience may become omniscient. Transmuted instincts shape to divine thoughts. Thoughts house infallible mortal sight. Again, Sri Aurobindo comes a little bit forward. The master of the world self-made her slave. The master of the world's self-made her slave is the executor of her fantasies. She has canalized the sea of omnipotence. She has limited by her laws the illimitable. The immortal bound himself to do her works. Her labor He labors at the tasks of her ignorance sets hidden in the cave of our mortality. The walls, the forms of the goddess that makes have lost their origin on unseen heights. So the self, the creator, the god, the master actually made himself, the self made her slave, executor of her fantasies. Her illimitable is limited, omnipotence is canalized. So immortal bound himself to do her work. That is here in this scenario. Sri Aurobindo is observing all these things, like Asopati is observing. Even severed, straying from their timeless source, even deformed, obscure, accursed, and fallen. Since also we can even fall has it perverted joy. That is a great word here in the course. Even fall has its perverted joy, and nothing she leaves out that serves delight. So again, Sri Aurobindo, after a few lines here in the course, he saw her pride and the splendor of high-born Jones. Again, after some times we can go forward. His life a forward rippling stream in time. Here Sri Aurobindo quotes about glorious discussion here. His life, a forward rippling stream in time, his nature's constant fixed mobility, his soul a moving picture changeful film, his cosmos chaos of personality, the grand creatrix with her cryptic touch has turned to pathos and power his being's self-dream. Anyway, we are moving little bit forward but here where walls lifted halfway to heaven. Here in the course, here the walls are there lifted halfway to heaven. The veil was there but not the shadowy wall. Veil was there, it can be removed. Again, after some times, Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully. Here the description: a chant hymeneal to the unseen divine, a flaming rhapsody of white desire, lured the immortal music to the heart, and we yoke the slumbering ear to ecstasy. That is a great chant hymeneal to the unseen divine, divine who is unseen. A flaming rhapsody of white desire, but actually it is white desire, lured an immortal music to the heart and yoked the slumbering ear of ecstasy. A purer, fierier sense had there its home. A burning urge to earthly limbs can hold. One drew a large, unburdened, spacious breath, and the heart spared from beat to rapturous beat. So this was the change, and this is the scenario here we can find. Later sometimes we can proceed forward and read actually how this is actually really working in time. In the realm above all is laughter and joy above. Wisdom and freedom. In the upper, above all, you can find the realms that is all is laughter and joy, wisdom and freedom. In the region, another comparison again. In the of there is actually laughter, joy, wisdom, and freedom. In the realms below, struggle and strife, fear and sorrow. This is the great difference between higher realm and the lower realm. It is as if life is enamored of her opposites, death and sport with it. So this contrariety, these opposites we can find. This attraction and taste for the opposites of the experience on the part of the life force has converted this creation into the passion play of the contraries. So this upper and lower, this luring and this repelling, this attraction and this repulsion, all these have made the passion play of contraries. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully, goes out a little bit forward and quotes here. In between are the walls that are not beyond the human reach, that are not beyond the human reach. Some walls are there that can be reached within up and down. Something of the high purity, bliss from above is patent here. The breath of God is palpable on the heights. So these are the realms we can find, the regions of high purity. You can have the God's patent here. Breath of the God is palpable on the sides. There is a strong aspiration here for the divine love and bliss. So there is a strong attraction for the divine love and bliss. The sense here is purer and fairer than the earthly sense. That is the great thing. The sense here is purer and fiercer than the earthly sense. Creation is nearer God, nearer His beauty. Very interesting. Creation is nearer God, nearer His beauty here than on earth. So all the clashing contraries on earth are seen as the complements here. Clashing contraries, what we find as contraries here are complements. There is here no falsehood, so no wickedness, no falsehood and no wickedness can thrive. The kingdoms of joy and the beauty, they are the kingdoms of beauty and joy and love. See, so it is a great thing. They are the kingdoms of joy, beauty and love. No strife, no falsehood, no weakness. Only God's beauty and nearness is there. We can find divine love and bliss. It is prominent. Life is a rapturous concert of the illumined spirit. Life is a rapturous concert of the illumined spirit. There is no care, no fatigue, no decay. So this is the great thing. No care, no fatigue, and no decay. Work is play and play the only. Their work was only play and play the only work. The beings of these realms are ever young, splendid, and conquering. Three things are there. The beings, about the beings we can find ever young, splendid, and conquering. Many functions naturally, mind functions without instrumentation of the labor of thought. So it is that freedom is there. Thrills of the joy and bliss course in this creation. Thrills of joy and bliss you can find where all lives and moves by their utter freedom. Anywhere you can get the great freedom, but in a spontaneous order. There is no crookedness. This is the great to reduce the force of truth. It is another thing. There is no crookedness to reduce the force of truth. That is a great event. Nature here is self-guided, and there is no shadow up to obscure the vision. So the nature here is self-guided, and of course we can find in the creative dance wavering the pattern of the rhythms of God. So this is a great thing. No crookedness, no falsehood, no say self nature, self-guided, no shadow or obscurity that you can find. Ever life is young, splendid, and conquering. Find then again, life is a their work is play and play the only work. Knowledge is one with power. No weakness you can find. Everything is near to God. Creativity is there. So this is a great realm, great description Sri Aurobindo is giving. Again, we'll proceed little bit forward. As Sri Aurobindo quotes in his original definition. His faith is a high nature's idiom. His service a spiritual sovereignty. There were realms where knowledge joined creative power. So just imagine about his adventures here in the course. His nobility is coronate and privilege. His faith is a high nature's idiom. His service a spiritual sovereignty. That freedom is there. Again, an immortal, his days became a luminous sacrifice here in the course. His days became a luminous sacrifice, and immortal moth in happy and endless fire. Fire is endless, happy, and this moth is going, but actually this moth is immortal. She burned in his sweet, intolerable blaze. A captive life waited her conqueror. The great word, the great thing, oft quoted line. Of course, it is an excellent line. A captive life waited her conqueror. It is actually happy union, happy sacrifice. That's what Sri Aurobindo has quoted. Again, we'll put few lines from here actually. Life was an eternity of rapturous moods. Life was an eternity of rapturous moods. Age never came, care never lined the face. That is a great description by the Mahajogi. Life was an eternity of rapturous moods. Age never came, care never lined the face. So again, we can go a little bit forward, and we can find the greatest discussion. Sri Aurobindo quotes here, a large spontaneous order free the will. That freedom we little before we were discussing. A large spontaneous order freed the will, a sun-frank winging of the soul to bliss, sun-frank winging of the soul to bliss. So again we can find life played at edge with her immense desires. 1,000 Edens she could build nor pause. So we are going little bit forward, and we can see no guide she needed but her luminous heart. This is the great description. No guide she needed but her luminous heart. No fall debased the Godhead of her steps. No fall debased the Godhead of her steps. No alien light had come to blind her eyes. There was no use for grudging ring or fence. Each act was a perfection and a joy. So imagine how this glorious description is and how it is working really. We are going little bit forward, because in between we have to finish up everything within the stipulated time, of course. And here we can find another format of discussion here. Ashwapati feels attracted to this world of bliss. This is the world already we have discussed. This is a world of bliss, and Ashwapati feels attracted, but feels a gulf between. Still this attraction is there, this bliss is there, still there is a gulf in between. For there is still his nature some legacy of the darkness. You can find everything is enchanted, attractive, world of bliss. Still, then there is one gulf. Is some gulf is there? Legacy of darkness and of pain and sorrow. Three. That within this gulf you can find darkness, pain, and sorrow. He has undergone this life on earth. This vitiation prevents him from the responding naturally to the higher joy and light. So this is the lacuna. This variation actually it respond naturally. It prevents to venture into the higher joy and light. Again, there is contrariety. The contraries of joy and pain, of light and darkness, are still part of the nature. Again, it is a beautiful thing. We can find contrariety. We can feel the gulf. We can feel the, of course, the enigma. We can find a contrariety. We can see this. That is indeed the ingrained habit of the life nature of Earth. So this contrariety, this enigma, this paradox, this puzzle, it is the integrated habit of the life nature on earth. Again, Sri Aurobindo goes a little bit forward, quoting beautifully. In the primitive beginning of the earth creature, there was no life, no mind, and no sense. In the primitive pattern when the earth began, there was no life, no mind, and no sense. All was a dead matter. Already we have discussed little bit in the while describing the symbol dawn. Slowly they are gathered in an urge within for the moment. Already this portion we have discussed in brief while describing the symbol dawn. So for expression and original harmony was disturbed. There came the movement and original harmony is disturbed. There was an awakening and a call went forth to life and descend from the native plane of above and activate in the myriad forms in the movement. Again, there we can find awakening and a call beautifully. Awakening and the call went forth to life and to descend from the native plane of the above to descend down and attractive myriad forms into the movement. There was a call, there was a compulsion, there was an awakening, something should to stir up. Life heard the call and invaded the material kingdom. Here, this call, this awakening, this call was there. It was heard by the life, and that call, life heard the call and invaded the material kingdom in order to fill with it the joy and the power. So, this is the great thing. One call was there, one awakening call was there, awakening and call. Life heard it, invaded the mortal kingdom, and in order to fill with the joy and power. There was a wider moment of joy and happiness. Still in the quotes beautifully. There was a wider moment of joy and happiness. The glory of life thrilled with the sweetness of the beauty of the peace. So life went, and of course there was a change, wider moment of joy and experience, and the glory of life thrilled with the sweetness of the beauty of the beast. So there is glorification. You can see life is swifter here. So again, it becomes possible for man to appear and front the world with his thought and soul. So when there became the life was thrilled with the sweetness of the beauty of the beast. So it was possible for man to appear and front the world with the thought and the soul. Two things came, one is thought and another is soul. It was there possible, but before the life could establish ourselves, that was the problem. You can find here, before that glory came, there became thought and soul. But actually before the life is establishing itself in the full sway, then a darker power of nescience, a darker power of nescience cast its shade on soul and imposed the personal ordeal on the spirit, and that was manifesting through the life power. So there came a glory, there is a swiftness, there is actually beauty, there is everything came in a very swift manner. But before it could be glorified, another dark power of nescience cast its imposed a purposeful ordeal on the spirit, purposeful ordeal on the spirit, which was manifesting through the life power. So spirit actually it is something is imposed, yes, impulsed. Life underwent a arrestation. With this, life was actually trying to flood. Now it is facing an arrestation of the dynamism, diminution, and deformation of our natural beauty and bliss. This is a great thing. Glory came, but actually we can find the full sway of the imposition of the dark power of nescience, for with which actually this is it is found that life underwent an arrestation of our dynamism, diminution, and deformation of our natural beauty and bliss. That came really, and it is life is arrested. Instead of going up, it is arrested. Her immortality got failed. That was the failure. So immortality got failed, and in her constricted movement, desire and struggle affected life. Life turned into the purveyor of death. So this glorious occasion when the life was planning to fly on, and with the impulsion, with the compulsion of the drag contrariety, and here the imposition, of course, we have seen little bit under the dark power of the nescience, life underwent an arrestation. Then this natural beauty and bliss is faded, and this is constant. Now it is found is a constricted movement, desire and struggle afflicted life. Then life turned into the purveyor of death. So we will try to quote only a couple of lines from his original, superb lines from his original creation we can find. The spirit lost its status repose. Here just now we were describing. The spirit lost its status repose in the uncaring trance it groped for sight, passioned for the movements of a conscious heart, flamishing with speech and thought and joy and love. So it is trying, but nothing is coming. A murmur moaned in the unlistening void. A being seemed to breathe where once was none. Something pent up in dead insentient depths, denied conscious existence, lost to joy. Everything is changed. So against your in the course, life had the call. Just a call we kept discussing little bit before. Life had the call and left her native light. Left her native light, overflowing from her bright, magnificent plane on the rigid coil and sprawl of mortal space. Here, too, the gracious, great and winged angel poured her splendor and her sweetness and her bliss, hoping to fill a fair new world with his joy. So there was a awakening again. There is a fall. Life's glory and sweetness ran in the beauty of the beast. Just before we were trying to quote and explain, life's glory and sweetness ran in the beauty of the beast. Man dared and thought and met with his soul the world. With his soul, man dared and thought to met with the soul, with his soul the world. But while the magic breath was on its way, before her gifts could reach her passionate heart, a dark, ambiguous presence questioned all. So already we have discussed, there came a fall, there came a pressure, there came a impulsion, compulsion. So with the secret will that robes itself in night and offers to the spirit the ordeal of the flesh. So there came an ordeal. Again, we can feel it is stopped. Abolished was her subtle, mighty spirit. and slain her boon of childhood happiness, and all her glory into the littleness fell. This glory, this glorification, this greatness, actually it turned into the littleness. Then Sri Aurobindo trying to complete up and all her glory into littleness have turned, and all her sweetness into a maimed desire. Then Sri Aurobindo quotes an episode in an eternal death, finally coming the eternal death. So veiled was her immortality, and that she seemed immortality is veiled, inflicting consciousness on unconscious things, an episode in an eternal death. Final concluding, though it is met with eternal death, a myth of being that must forever cease, a myth of being that must forever cease, because this is the glory of then you down, your top and the crest like this it is moving. Such was the evil mystery of her change. Life, evil mystery of change. There is a change from up to bottom, from glory to the fall, and this is the great thing we are going to we have discussed right now. Anyway, it is a definitely it is a touching topic, and it is of course an interesting topic we have seen. It is a great topic. Let us, time is knocking right now, and it is compelling us to stop here. We will go little forward and in our next session. Thank you. Vande Mataram.